Welcome to the 22nd ToKini Andy Kanji lesson. Today we're going to cover the meaning, building blocks, writing, historical evolution where applicable, and a story to memorize each of the following kanji. We'll also learn the parts and radicals needed for those kanji. Today, there's only one new part. Also, stick around to the end of the lesson where we'll be doing a quick quiz to help everything stick. By the way, check out the pinned comment below this video to see why we are not learning readings for each kanji just yet. In 2 more lessons, though, we will be. We're going to get going by going through this kanji that means go. The official radical of go is itself, go! But we can break it down into the parts going man radical, a 1, and street sign. There are 7 strokes in go, which follow the order of the parts. We begin with the 2 no radical-like strokes in going man radical, followed by the vertical line in that. Remember that the no strokes in going man radical do not need to be at exactly the same angle. The lower one is aimed slightly more down. Next, we write the first horizontal stroke on the right, followed by the 2 strokes in street sign below it. The horizontal stroke in street sign should be a little bit longer than the horizontal stroke above it. Also, be sure to sweep up the tip of the final stroke in street sign in towards the going man radical. Remember the history of going man radical? Well, the history of go is exactly the same history, except it has the half that was missing from the going man radical. In other words, this is and always has been a pictograph of a crossroads or 4-way intersection, except for the seal from China's Warring States period. That's a fish person or alien, but one from underwater, or Atlantis or something. I don't know. For our story, we're going with Ando-san is going to the street with the fluorescent worm on the street sign. Remember that it's a good idea to pause the video after each story and really try to imagine it, or to create a story of your own that will help you remember the kanji even better. Make sure the story contains the meaning and every single part in some way. Alright, off to a good start and feeling good. Our second kanji means good. Technically, this is a JLPT N3 and Kanken level 7 kanji, but the entire thing is needed for our next very, very common kanji, so we decided to teach it here. Notice how it's just missing a drop on top? I debated for a while on teaching this as a separate part, but it only shows up as a radical in this kanji for N5. And being that the dot is the only difference, and even in Japanese it's often referred to as just the good radical, I decided to just bring it up here. The parts for this one are a drop and the good radical. The strokes in this kanji are a little weirder than most of the kanji we've done so far. The final 3 strokes in this one do show up from time to time though, so I recommend paying close attention to the order. We start with the drop on top, and then draw what looks a lot like a katakana yo beneath it in 3 strokes. Next, we close up the yo-like strokes with a single vertical stroke that goes past it and slice up the end towards the right, which is something we have not done a lot so far, so be careful with that. Next, we draw the small dot on the right, pulling it into the center, kind of like a small no. We then sweep out a backwards no stroke, often connected to the stroke before it. While no single theory has been firmly established about the history of good, some suggest that it's a pictograph or ideograph of grains being washed and picking out the good ones. Others suggest that it's the shape of a weighing scale or eating utensils. Regardless, all I see is Red from the original Pokemon games walking around with an upside-down chair in his head. Or maybe a crown? The L below him is just the corner of the Game Boy screen. What was your first Pokemon game? Let us know in the comments. For our story for good, we're going with... Apparently, this pictograph is modeled after a tool used to separate out grains. We'll call it the good machine. To use it, shove 1 grain into a sun-like hole. The not-so-good parts go down the back of the machine, the good bits go down the right path, and we add a drop of sugar to make it taste even better. Pretzels from America. Ugh, it's stale. This kanji means eat. Sorry. The official radical for eat is eat, though I'm sure you can already see the person roof and good underneath it. There are 9 strokes in eat, which follow exactly that order. We start with the 2 strokes in person roof. First the stroke on the left, and then the sweeping out one on the right. Keep this part up towards the top, obviously. Next we draw good. Start with the drop on top, and then draw what looks a lot like a katakana yo beneath it in 3 strokes. Next, close up the yo-like part with a vertical line that you slice up towards the right at the end. Next, draw the small dot on the right, pulling it towards the center, kind of like a small no, and sweep out a backwards no stroke connected to that. Historically, this was a pictograph of my first lava lamp. See? Lava lamp. With a perfect A for Andy above it. I suppose it could also signify that the aliens are onto me and taking aim with their rockets. In all seriousness, though, this was apparently a bowl of food with the A representing a lid. Though, I did read one explanation suggesting the A is a mouth, upside down and biting into the food below. If either of those help you memorize it, that's all that really matters. For our story, we eat the good grains pushed out by the good machine in a shop with an Ando-san roof. Hit the like button if you're hungry. Pause the video and go grab a snack. You have my permission. Oh God, they really are stale. I've showered you with enough puns for today, so I'm just going to tell you that this kanji means rain. And that its official radical is rain. We can break rain down into a 1, an overturned box, a staff, and a drop. There are 8 strokes in rain. We start with the horizontal 1 on top and follow it up with the overturned box below it. While in computer fonts, this will often appear to be exactly as wide as the first horizontal stroke is long, in writing, this is generally quite a bit wider than the first horizontal stroke. Be sure to sweep it in towards the center at the end of the 3rd stroke. Next, we cut the staff through everything, from the bottom of the first horizontal stroke down through the box. This should stop right at the bottom of the overturned box, though in some types of calligraphy you may see it extend past. We then draw all 4 dots at the exact same angle, first the 2 on the left, then the 2 on the right, from top to bottom. This history for rain doesn't even really need an explanation, I don't think. It's a pictograph of rain, and a squid monster with many eyes. Probably the type of squid monster that causes rain. What? For our story, we're going with, we see an overturned box with a fluorescent worm placed above it. We poke the worm with our wise man's staff, and it begins to rain in the box. Because magic, you know. This worm with a giant head coming at us, like a flash of lightning, is actually the electric radical. Technically, it is a kanji, but it's not commonly used these days. Its official radical is field, with the parts being field and fishhook. There are 5 strokes in the electric radical. They're a bit different from field, so be careful with them. We actually draw what looks like a completed sun first, so maybe you'll want to use that as a part. Vertical stroke, upside down backwards L, then 2 horizontal strokes closing it off on the bottom. We then draw the fishhook right through it, with the curved end sticking out beyond the field part on the right. I couldn't find any good history for this one, beyond the fact that it's a part usually used in relation to electricity and lightning, and also that it's an actual kanji that is an alternative form of our next kanji. For our shocking story, we're going with a giant fishing hook placed across a field somehow creates electricity. But how? I think I'm supposed to ask you to subscribe here. In a shocking turn of events, I think I will not do that, and instead just tell you that this kanji means electricity. But you probably already knew that if you watched the last part in this video. On we go. The official radical for electricity is, surprisingly, to me at least, rain. And the parts are rain and electric radical. There are 13 strokes in electricity. When rain is written as a top part in a kanji, it's smushed together quite a bit. The strokes are all the same, except that the final stroke in overturned box does not get swept up towards the center. Instead, it just angles inward a little bit from the 90-degree downturn. The vertical staff also often cuts below the end of the overturned box in this part, with the drops peeking out on the bottom as well, at least in written form. For the electric radical part, the strokes are mostly the same as in the radical, except that the fishing hook stroke starts from within the field part. It does not stick out on top. The field part in general also looks even more like a sun part than a field when it's on the bottom like this, because it's so much more squished together. Historically, the parts have remained the same, with the rain and lightning below indicating electricity, or just lightning. This was also an alternative version of the last part we learned, the electric radical, which I've already said. They essentially mean the same thing, but this kanji is the one that is commonly used today. In the last story, we didn't know why the giant fishhook laid over a field created electricity. We get our answer here. During a rainstorm, the electric field radical collects and transmits electricity. Which brings us to the Lesson 22 quiz. In this section of the video, I'll show you a flashcard with the English meaning for a kanji. Pause the video when we show each card and try to remember how to write that kanji. Next, write it on your hand with your finger or on a piece of paper. Then press play and see if you were right. The best way to remember kanji you just learned is to search your memory for the story we taught you, or the one you made based on the English word on the flashcard. Our first card is go. Next is eat. Just a few more. Here's good. And then there's electric. Finally, we have rain. Let us know how many you got right down in the comments. You can learn the next 5 kanji by clicking here, if the video is already out. If you don't want to wait, you can continue learning with our Level 1 Kanji Flashcard deck for Anki on ToKiniAndy.com. We're also releasing kanji videos early for all the members there, so check it out if you want a head start.